Welcome to Groups This Week. As a church, we exist to help all people become fully devoted followers of Jesus. We believe doing life together is a crucial part of that journey. During this time, we're going to unpack and dig deeper into the sermon we heard this past week. Let's dive in as we continue to grow in our faith, knowledge, and love of Jesus together. All right, well, we're here in week 3 of our Abraham series, having a casual conversation with David, because nothing says casual like a wiener dog mug full of coffee. David, can you just give us a recap of where we've left off from last week?
Yeah, last week, when we left the story, Abraham had kind of come full circle. He had thrown himself on his own know-how, and he tried to fix a situation that he found himself in. And there was a famine in the land. He takes Sarah and his family, and they go down to Egypt. And it doesn't turn out well. Well, in the end, it turns out well, but at the time, it doesn't look very good because before you know it, Abraham's afraid. Sarah ends up in Pharaoh's harem. The promise seems to be in jeopardy. And we read the fantastic words, but the Lord intervenes, rescues Sarah. Abraham and Sarah leave Egypt. They get deported, essentially. And then Abraham goes back to where he began and calls upon the name of the Lord. And I love that because it's a picture of, all right, God, give me a do-over. Let me start again. And that's where we ended off last week in the story.
And then what happens in chapter 13 from verse 5 through the end of the chapter here?
Well, you're getting hints of a problem along the way. And one of the problems is when God calls Abraham, he says, leave everything, leave your kindred and leave your home and go to the land that I will show you. And so Abraham obeys, sort of. One of the things you'll notice is that he brings his nephew Lot with him. And wherever you come across Lot's name, and we talked about this last week, it's going to cause some problems. And sure enough, at the beginning of chapter 13, we read that between Abraham and Lot, they have a lot of stuff. Get it? A lot of stuff, and the land can't hold the two of them. And so there's a dispute between Lot's servants and Abraham's servants, and it's threatening to blow up, and so a decision has to be made. How are they going to continue? Should they keep traveling together when the land cannot support so many people and so much livestock, and what needs to be done?
Yeah. Right. And so is there more going on in the separation that Abraham and Lot have than just simply resolving this conflict of there's not enough land between their friends?
Yeah. It's a fantastic passage, and there's so much that we can glean from this, and that we talked about on the weekend. For one, it's remarkable that Abraham, the patriarch, after all, he is the recipient of the promise from God. Abraham, rather than exercising his rights and saying, "Hey, look, God gave me the promise, not you, Lot. In fact, I'm regretting bringing you along in the first place." What does Abraham do? He says, "Look, let's have no fighting between the two of us. You choose.
Right.
Wherever you want to go, where you go, I'll go in a different direction. If you go this way, I'll go in the other direction. But let's not have fighting between us." And he actually defers to his nephew. Now, in the ancient Near East, in the ancient world, for a senior, for an elder, to defer to a junior is quite unheard of, and it's quite a remarkable picture of Abraham, and I think it's actually indicative of this growing faith that he's having in God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. He's growing.
He's growing. Yeah, he's growing step by step.
And we see in this chapter that God reaffirms his promise to Abraham. Mm-hmm. He initially promises blessing over Abraham in chapter 12, and then we see in kind of verses 14 through 17 at the end of this chapter, he's reaffirming his blessing over Abraham. Like, why does God do this?
Well, I think it's I'm not sure, but I think in part it's a reaffirmation of Abraham's relinquishment of his rights. and saying, God, I am trusting you. And because that's what he does with Lot. He says, Lot, you make the call. And I think in part, it's a picture of Abraham saying, God, I'm throwing myself on you. I'm going to trust in you. And I think it is God affirming to Abraham, saying, look, because you are trusting me, just to reiterate, this is the land that I'm going to give to you. This is the promise that how it's going to be played out. And so I think in some ways it's an affirmation of Abraham's expression of faith. Yeah.
Wow. And so anything else we can kind of learn from this chapter here, or what are the biggest takeaways?
Well, for me, it's the no good nephew Lot, because when Abraham says, "Hey, you choose," what does Lot say? Or what does it say about Lot? Lot, it says he looked, he saw that the land was really good, and he took it.
Right.
Now, when's the last time we heard these words? They looked, and it looked attractive, and they took it.
And it even references the garden, like in that passage.
Yeah, because he looks and he says, "Oh, this land reminds me of." And he makes reference to Egypt, in fact, as well.
Both, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and so he looked; it was attractive, and he took. And it's an echo of Genesis 3. And here you have Lot living by sight and not by faith. And you end up with this really interesting thing at the very end of the story of Lot in this chapter. It says, and Lot ends up pitching his tent near Sodom. And it says Sodom was a place full of wicked people.
Yeah.
And so there's this sense of, oh man, how is this going to go?
Yeah.
And if you know the story, it
We'll
doesn't
find
go
out,
that
yeah.
well. Yeah, tune in a few weeks. But it's kind of ominous. But it's whenever we choose by sight and we don't bring God into the equation and we exercise our rights over and against somebody else, it often doesn't go well. And that's certainly the case with Lot here. So to me, that's what really stands out in this passage. And it's also, we can talk about this, but just the dangers of pitching your tent near Sodom. That doesn't have to be. It's where we linger or we flirt or we get close to areas that we know we shouldn't be at. It's like, I'm actually not crossing the boundary. I'm just kind of lingering, near a website that I shouldn't be going on, or doing something close to what I shouldn't be doing. If you linger near sin, before you know it, you're sucked in.
Flirting with the world. Yeah.
And spoiler alert, next time we see Lot, he's sitting in the city gates of Sodom. Well, he's become a leader.
Wow.
in this wicked land. And just prior to that, he's pitched his tent near Sodom. Next thing you know, he's bought a condo in Sodom.
Wow.
And I think there's a real warning for us in the Christian life, in the life of Sodom, in the life of Lot. Yeah.
So we've got the trailer for what's coming next.
That's
here.
right. Yeah, we will
But,
talk about this in a little bit. Yeah.
Well, thanks for season 1, episode 3, David.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed the teaching today. If you're wanting to follow along with our community group's discussion guide with your group, you can head to cachurch.ca/media, where you can find the discussion guide. Not only are there questions there related to the sermon, but there's also prayer prompts that relate to the passage or the topic that we were talking about, and practices that you can, on an individual level or a group level, begin integrating into your life to not only bring this knowledge into your mind, but to begin living it out.